So last but certainly not least, we have a man from Journey Further who has journeyed the furthest. Oh no. Um, we have Samm Mace King. He has spent 10 years in digital working for big brands like, stop me at Sizzler, because I have very fond memories of Sizzler. La Redoute International, and what else have you got for me? We'll get to it, you know? He is a puppy parent, which is obviously the most important thing to us because we are well represented. You've seen dogs in the audience, so adorable, in good company. And he's passionate about digital and all things social. So can I welcome to the stage Samm Mace King, please?
Hello. This is dangerous, isn't it? Hi. So let's start with me, because if you're anything like me, which is really judgmental, you're probably like, who is this emo talking to me? At work, I call myself a dashboard professional, which is an emo music joke, if you didn't get it. But let me tell you about me. So I've been in digital 10 years. I started as an account manager, which is code for sales. And I then moved to a different agency, and I got the opportunity to basically build a social offering from the ground up, which was just me and nobody else. And then at a certain point, I realized I'd learned everything from myself and the internet, and I needed somebody to teach me stuff. So I jumped over to Journey Further and learned from people who know a lot more than me. And since then, I've kind of become an e-com retail specialist. I don't like calling myself a specialist, it seems a bit much. But I work with brands like La Redoute International. I really like the French pronunciation, by the way, clearly French Canadian. Serve Drinks, HSL, and kind of the behemoth that was Fraser's Group, which was a terrible, terrible thing to do. But I put game on there because it made me feel a bit cool. So the post-colon to this story selling to storytelling is centering the user in your creative. And honestly, that can feel a bit like big, but it's not. It's really, really simple. All it is reframing your idea. And I've heard like 3 people say reframing now, so wonderful. This is what we're talking about today. It's not ripping up new ideas. It's just making sure that your user can really resonate with what you're selling, your brand, and know that it fits into their life. I was quite worried about this because creative is essentially what we do in paid social now, and there are a lot of people who know more than me. So I thought I'd start with something more comfortable for me, which is grammar. So we're going to have a grammar lesson first. So has anybody ever diagrammed a sentence? I did an English language A-level. I've never done it. My wife grew up in America. She moved there when she was 12, and she was told in her first English class that because she didn't know how to diagram a sentence, she couldn't speak English, which is very American. But basically, you just split a sentence into its components, and you can learn about it, I guess. So with this, there are 2 things in this sentence. One is the subject, which is the product or brand, and then the other one is a verb, so looks, and then an adjective, I guess. This is essentially what we do day to day in paid social. Like if you put a DPA out there, you're putting the brand, somebody will kind of look at it and go like, oh, it looks good. You're not really going to do anything. It doesn't really affect their life. Think about like a Temu carousel. Have you ever seen one of those pop up on your Instagram? Like automatic bubble gun, cheese grater cat thing. Like it's not great, but you're like, oh, okay, maybe if it's cheap, you might buy it, but ultimately it isn't really doing much to your life. If we flip this, we add the for me at the end. It's the same sentence, just added for me. This has changed it grammatically. So the product and brand is now the object of the sentence. The for me, your user, is the subject, and you've still got a verb in there. So this is what we're trying to do today. We're just going to make the user the subject of your creative, basically. It's a marketing psychology thing. It's all bullshit, really. But basically, not that we spend our lives doing it, but it just makes them emotionally resonate with what you're putting out there. So how do we do it, you say? Well, thank you. I've got 3 tips. Like, it's by no means an exhaustive list. There's loads more that you could do with it, but this is what I think whenever I put creative briefs in day to day. So first, be relevant to your audience. Again, bullshit sentence. this is what we do on a day-to-day basis. You've just talked about it for 20 minutes. It really, really matters, particularly as Meta and TikTok move away from more demographic targeting and more into kind of AI algorithmic targeting. You really need to make sure that your creative is resonating with that audience. As an anecdote, I took over an insurance company for holiday insurance last year. They sell to older people who have health issues, basically. And I had loads of creative ideas. I was like, we'll do case studies and we'll get videos of people looking really happy and abroad and stuff like that. And I tried to push these through, but the best creative that has worked for months and months and months for them was just a picture of a woman on a beach with a rolling suitcase with a blue sky behind her. And it made no sense. How did she get on the beach? Like, was she dropped from a plane? Why did she have a suitcase? She was dressed for an airport. And it wasn't even branded. It was literally just a picture of this woman on the beach. And I tried for ages to figure out how to make it not work because I really wanted it to fuck up, basically. And it didn't. So essentially, I just leaned into it. We built some basic graphics with a logo and some USPs, but ultimately it was just stock imagery of people in their age demographic on holiday because that's what they wanted to see. And I say this for two reasons. A, because that woman makes me very happy every time I think about her. To be honest, I wanted to put this image in here, but it's so shit as an image that on this screen, you wouldn't be able to see it. It would be that grainy. And B, just as marketers, we tend to overthink things. We know what we're talking about, so we think we know best, but ultimately, let the audience guide you. So to give you some data, because I love data, Served, they were originally kind of a challenger drinks brand. They were trying to get into a new market, which was alcoholic seltzers 3-4 years ago. It's now a massive market. But we led with ads like this, which is basically the brand, a big discount, and then some USPs. It worked quite well. Last year, they then decided to move into cocktails, because obviously canned cocktails are an amazing thing. And it's a massive market now. And again, we just chose discount, big branded can, and then USPs. This worked for a little while, but ultimately it just started to bomb really quickly, no matter what flavor we put out there. For some reason, Facebook likes the mojito one. Everybody else likes the purple one, but anecdote. So having kind of seen this bomb, I started looking into the audience. I realized that there were more 25 to 35, started doing some social listening. Boom. And realized that they were taking them to festivals, they were taking them to barbecues, they were taking them out and about. So I just quickly briefed in, can you give me some assets of somebody at a festival, somebody at a barbecue? And we came up with this stuff. So this is actually an AI-generated image. Boo. But it flew away. Even with the lower discount and the 50% off, the click-through rate improved 63%, and the ROAS is 64% higher. Specifically for that ad, but across the board, when we kind of did in situ assets, they were much, much better than this style of ad. And I just say that is because people can see themselves utilizing your brand and utilizing your product in their life rather than just a product being served to them. And that's it on that. In terms of the second thing, speaking an authentic voice. Now, I'm sure you've heard this a million times before. Again, I'm not going to tell you anything new. Authenticity isn't a buzzword anymore. The creator economy is huge. Again, some stats for you. 79% of people say they're bored of brand assets. 90% of consumers say that authenticity is the most important thing when deciding if they're going to engage with a brand. 61% of consumers trust creator recommendations. Again, harken back to what you were saying. So it is a really big thing now, and it's only going to get bigger as TikTok moves into kind of older generations, as Reels starts to take over Instagram. It was 50% of all media on Instagram last year was Reels, and they're intending to get it to 75% this year. So kind of the creator economy is becoming more and more apparent in everybody's life, and as more and more people are exposed to it, they are going to get kind of more and more used to it and want to see more and more of it. So how do you get this? So these are kind of the two polar opposites. One side, you've got your brand content, you know, it's beautiful, you've spent thousands of pounds on it, you can fully control it, but it's not authentic because people know that you have built it yourself. On this side, you've got UGC from consumers. So they purchase your brand, they go onto their kind of platform, and they talk about it. Sometimes they're going to be happy about it, sometimes they're going to be sad about it, sometimes they'll do an unbox. It's 100% genuine because you haven't told them to do it, but ultimately you've got zero control. And that is what scares a brand, zero control. So how do you leverage kind of genuine content and have some control? So you got the messy middle, as Meta likes to call it. So on this end, kind of more towards UGC, you've got working with influencers, kind of collabs, that kind of thing. It is a bit more control because you can brief him what you want them to say, but ultimately that influencer isn't going to talk about your product if they don't like it. So it is still kind of out of your control, but it is a lot more authentic. Where I think people need to start leveraging is content creators. So it's like a middle ground between an influencer and your brand content. It's an influencer without a following. So they'll basically, you pay them, you tell them what you want them to say, and they'll produce something that is pretty, it's nice, it seems authentic, but ultimately you have had a lot of control in it. And I don't know if you're working with any kind of particular clients, but from my perspective, when you're telling somebody that we're just going to do it, they're not happy with that. They want to know exactly how we're going to do it, and this is a really good way to do it. Case in point, Upbox a couple of years ago, don't know if you remember when.
That's my mum.
Is that your mum?
Yeah.
Whoa, everything's connected. Well, so a couple of years ago, there was, that threw me off. Go, mum, go. So a couple of years ago, supermarkets started losing out on fruit and veg in stores because of shortages for some reason. We won't talk about it. It's been 8 years now. But what we did after kind of our box was starting to suffer, all we did was kind of build some UGC. What this started off was with somebody in situ. They were in a supermarket and they basically said, look, the fruit and veg is empty. It's like the First World War again. And then they got home and on their doorstep, or your mum's doorstep, maybe your doorstep, was the odd box. They opened it up and they were like, look, we got fruit and veg, even though we couldn't find it. It was really authentic. It was really nice. And all it did was really increase click-through rate and decrease cost per subscription by 50%. So it really, really does work. It's very, very important to utilize this as part of your strategy. And in terms of kind of the last thing, this is a really broad thing again. Sorry, I've told you loads of bullshit today. But don't be afraid to test anything. Like, this is something that I hark on and on about at work. Like, people, we're so bogged down in, oh, what would the brand think about this? Or how does this kind of represent the brand? And it just makes us less and less creative. So we're quite kind of data-driven at Journey Further. We use a lot of iterative testing. So what this means is we kind of run 3 similar ads and then against each other, and then we get the winner, and then we add some more stuff, and then we get the winner, and then we add some more stuff. And all it does is basically stifle creativity. You get the same ads over and over and over and over again. And they work, which is fine, but like it's boring. It's really, really boring. And brands love it because you're just getting good creative, and it means they don't really have to try anything or kind of be worried about stuff. And again, it's boring. So the easiest way to do it is if you think of it like this. So keep your branding consistent, but go crazy with ideas. So Laradu were very hesitant to change anything. Kind of, we had the same formats over and over again, and it was like, big discount, a couple of products, there you go. We said, right, let's develop this logo, let's develop kind of the way that we push it across, but ultimately change everything around it. And you get very similar creative, but it is also very different. And it's a really good kind of jumping off point for kind of a brand partnership to allow them to test things, but also feel safe about it. So go with that. And I always love to end my presentations with a slide about arson. So one of our founders once said to me, fail at speed. And what he meant by that is pioneer idea, test it really quickly, and then pivot on that. So basically, don't be afraid to fail, because that is the only way you're going to really develop your ideas and develop your creative. And also Yoda said it, and who's going to argue with Yoda, because he's the best guy in the galaxy. And then quickly to wrap up, because Google once told me that you can hold 3 things from a presentation and you should say them all at the end, so I'm going to do it. 1, talk to your audience. Remember that lady on the beach? She's still there. She's very lost. But sometimes people just want to think about holidays. 2, speak authentically. Don't mark your own homework. Get somebody else to mark your homework for you and get them to tell other people how good you are. And then test bold ideas. Don't be afraid to fail. What was it? Pioneer, test, pivot. And then you should get creative success. And if you don't, you can blame me, because you'll never see me again. But yeah, thanks a lot.